All right. Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of the podcast here at the CCA. And it's been a little bit. We did have an off week last week, but as you can see from our title today, there's been some blood in the water, especially in regards to some of the recent um, happenings that have occurred since qualifier number three or because of qualifier number three. And we're going to be looking ahead at some of those potential impacts and other things you should be looking out for as we head into qualifier number four, and also just the general conclusion or upcoming conclusion of the CCA circuit already, which is crazy to think about that we've already passed a halfway point with it all. Um, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, there's only two more qualifiers where people can even get points to be eligible. So we are very much in like the equivalent of the last 3 weeks of league. So I
yeah,
mean, I don't know about you,
literally.
but this is always my favorite time. It's the do or die teams for teams, a do or die time for teams to figure out if they can get their crap together and pull out a victory, or if they're just gonna flounder away in the leaderboard. But it's always entertaining to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking about floundering, I've been floundering a lot today and just in general this past week. Um, how about you, Krona? Um, how have you been doing lately?
As you can clearly see, I got a haircut today.
Absolutely. Did you get the some of the crust off the top?
Yeah, went in the oven, overbaked a little bit.
Ooh,
But no, still being a student. It's the November dread, as they call it, where you have all the build up to Thanksgiving, the calm and the storm, and then those last 2 weeks of hell for the semester. But it is what it is. We we push onward.
doesn't WPI have like sort of a relatively odd schedule compared to most schools too?
Undergrad wise, yes, they do four terms, each being 7 weeks, which is rough to say. But I'm a grad student now, so I only do. We're on semesters now, which is a lot more
So
normal, and it's very odd
they make you guys
going
normal
back to
pilled
like.
if you go to masters?
I guess so.
That's
It's very
weird.
odd because I'm so experienced in like the sprint classes, and it's so odd to have like an extra like 5 weeks to do content. But you know, it's interesting.
No, yeah, fair enough for sure. And with a lot of that, I mean, in mind, it's going to be kind of interesting to see maybe how just the general st just how school and academics are going for a lot of our CCA teams and competitors as we kind of enter some of these ladder tournaments. I know I have a couple friends who are still participating in the circuit, and they had to, for instance, actually just drop out of qualifier three or not sign up for it. Um, so they're hoping to potentially play one or two more times at the very least, but it'll be interesting to
Hmm.
see how that all plays out, you know, because I think that's something
Yeah.
sometimes people forget about. It's like, oh shoot, I have an exam. I don't know if I can get our match in, like if it's the normal season.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little bit more different than the league setup and such, but I think if you plan ahead and make the realization that very little all the teams are going to be able to make all five, you'll be fine as long
Hmm.
as you plan in advance. But you
For
know,
sure,
it definitely is an effect, but it's always been there anyways for the collegiate scene.
for sure. Um, but before we, get too off topic, I think it's about time we maybe go through some CCA announcements, right? It's been a minute. There's a few more things to talk about. We even had the Deep Sea Student Exchange tournament just very recently, and quite a bit happened there that we definitely want to shout out.
Hmm.
But
Jumping ahead of the script, are you?
yeah, get jumping a little bit ahead. That I see like all the little funny like things we mark off, and I'm like, oh, I want to point out all of them, and then I realize I'm halfway down the next page of our notes. But yes, let's talk about some CCA stats, shall we? So we just wanted to give a reminder that the CCA is collecting stats on every single match for the CCA circuit, and you should all make sure that your captain successfully goes through the stats submission process as described in hashtag stats info in the CCA server after every circuit event. Furthermore, new stat visuals are up on Hoken's visualization website, so check them out there if you're interested. And the sooner you report your stats properly, the sooner you will get them visualized. I think that's pretty cool, right? And everyone else can look at them and you can point to them on like Twitter or Blue Sky or wherever you want to point to them at and be like, hey guys, look at my funny stat. So you should do that.
Hmm. Yeah, and I believe Hogan has been trying to get some staff graphics out on the socials as well with some of the data we've collected for the circuit so far. So it's definitely in everyone's best interest to make sure that all of your matches are reported. So just whenever you get eliminated or knocked out from the tournaments, just go send your stats immediately so you don't have to worry about it later.
Agreed. Krona, could you take us through some fantasy updates while you're at it?
Yes. Yes. Right off the hot press from Snow's hand, we have the fantasy update for the third qualifier. So the scores are finally up for the third qualifier. Tied for the first was Minnie and J Money with 98 points each. Both of them picked VCU Big Fat Sea Cows as well as Terminal Illinois. So both teams might as well be the secret to a high scoring fantasy bracket. In fact, VCU Big Fat Sea Cows is the single most popular team this time around, with a whopping 60% of the players choosing them. It's, go figure. As always, the full results are available in the Circuit Info Discord. The fantasy bracket for the fourth quarter will be open shortly after signups closed on Thursday nights or tomorrow morning, Friday. So yeah, I hope everyone's enjoying the fantasy stuff this time around. It's a little bit different than what we normally do, but have to accommodate things. And I know that Snow is cooking up some fun stuff for later, so definitely keep an eye and participate if you want. So,
Absolutely.
do you want to make full your promise here, OmaZen, and talk about Deep Sea Student Exchange?
Yeah, I will absolutely do that. So, this past Saturday, Champlain College Esports hosted a collegiate charity tournament called the Deep Sea Student Exchange as a part of their fundraiser for the Extra Life campaign. This tournament was both a draft and gimmick tournament where participants in chat got to vote on gimmicks to implement once certain donation goals had been reached. The CCA streamed the first half of this tournament, and across the 5 hour duration of the event, the Deep Sea Student Exchange was able to raise nearly $850 for the Extra Life Fund. It was the largest and most watched event within all of Champlain College's planned events for the fundraiser, and everyone at Champlain would just like to give you all a huge thank you to who participated and to the Collegiate Scrim Circuit staff and the Champlain College for helping put this event together. So, I think that technically includes you, Krona, right? So big thank you as well
Yeah.
to you too. Um,
I mean, most of the thanks goes to Cyan, who organized it all and was the driving force on all kind of 3D organizations and such. But it was a joy to put together, and definitely fun to do. So glad that. But the second time now, the CCA collegiate community was able to make some donations to a good cause, and to kind of have a positive impact on the lives of folks. But yeah, it was great. I think everyone had a fun time, and rumor is that they might be interested in doing it again next year. So
well,
stay
that's
tuned, and I'm
awesome.
sure that there'll be more information at some point.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. Just that growth in general too, you know. And I mean, $850, like that can be impactful, absolutely, as well. So
Hmm.
totally glad to hear that. And um, I think we also should talk about just like everything that happened in regards to qualifier number three too. Not to segue us too abruptly, but we have quite a few things that we have listed out here. And with the absence of an episode last week, I think it's even a bit more apparent how much there really is to cover. So, without further ado, I just want to get us on our train rolling here on the tracks and chugging along. So we're going to do some quick callouts on some notable results and turnouts in the Swiss stage of Division 4, and then I'm going to go ahead and take us through just a couple bracket stage highlights from Top Cut there, and we'll move along into the further divisions after that. So to start it off with Division 4, in our Swiss stage, we did want to call out some of the notable performances, which included Drexel Gold Splatoon going 3-1 overall in Swiss, Ferris State Splatoon going 3-1 overall, Octo and Squids United Gray going 2-2, the Cratatorinators going 2-2, VCU Spirality and the Holy Snail going 3-1, and HLG Gold and XX Shadow Warriors XX from VCU going 4-0. So a really fun turnout there. Shadow Warriors has probably been one of the teams I've been kind of like looking off to the side the most, just not just because of the funny name, but because they have made a lot of progress since qualifier number one too. Just gradually inching their way up, So fun to see there. Um, but talking about the bracket stage, we were able to see yet another in-house match from VCU in the Division 4 Top Cut bracket, this time in the semifinal match, where Shadow Warriors fought Spirality in another 2-1 match to punch their ticket to the grand final match. And then on the other side of Top Cut, the Holy Snail and HLG Gold played for their chance at the grand final match, with HLG Gold sweeping entirely. And as such, HLG Gold played against Shadow Warriors. In the grand final match, despite taking game two, they were unable to keep the Shadow Warriors at bay, and VCU was able to win the match 3-1. So that was really exciting to see too. But we also wanted to note that in the third place match, Holy Snails just barely able to sneak away with a Game 5 victory over VCU Spirality, preventing two VCU teams from taking two podium spots there. So, um, I mean, I don't know if I'm necessarily like like IRL snail fan, but I'm definitely a Holy Snail fan. So um,
I,
praise be the
I
little guy.
absolutely, I always love the names Cutstown comes up with. Holy Snail's another good one to put in the
Hmm.
book. But yeah, interesting stuff here from Div 4. Interesting that we had yet another VCU in-house match. I believe they have both occurrences of it in the circuit so far. I know there are some other teams or some universities have teams in the multiple teams in the same division.
Hmm.
UCF, WPI, RIT come to mind, but it's only been with VCU having those in-house matches and brackets so far. So interesting, it's happened twice.
Definitely very silly. And with us, nearing sort of the end of the circuit, I guess it kind of makes sense that maybe you'd see that at least have a higher likelihood of popping up, right? But
Well, I mean, there's so many factors that come into play
yeah.
with it, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense that it happens in like a round three match rather than like a round one, because like
Hmm.
that is just pure like luck of the seeding of Swiss. But I digress. But yeah, let's continue forward. Let's move on to Division Three here. Here in the Swiss stage, Group B was very close in results with nearly half of its teams scoring two wins. The other two teams to get more than two reams were Wave Riders with a dominant 4-0, and then Stingray Incorporated with a solid 3-1 reported. Backing up their dominant performance, Wave Riders previously played in Qualifier 1 with the same division, earning a Swiss score of 3-1. They managed to get to the semifinals of the Top Cut, an impressive first showing there. It's an excellent improvement story can be found in the Stingray Incorporated, as they started off in Div 4 before moving up thanks to make it to the finals. Though they struggled initially in their new division in Qualifier 2, they've steadily improved in Qualifier 3 of the 3-1 record. So some great improvements and showings of these two teams. The slugfest extended to both groups as no team in Group A got a 4-0 record. Nearly half managed to score a 3-1 record, not vector. Shout out to UMass Corsairs, UCSD Esports Navy, the Ink Executioners, Gris Taco, and Terminal Illinois for scoring high in this group. A large successful center from Div 4, Terminal Illinois, followed up their run to semifinals in Div 4 with a swift score of 3-1 here in Div 3, a confidence showing the new division. Kosier had improved the record from 2-2 to 2-3, and Navy and Gris Taco were both newcomers to Qualifier 3. Great to see newcomers making a splash on arrival. Let's talk a little bit about the bracket stage then. As for the fate of our Swiss Stars, Wave Riders in Terminal Illinois managed to make it to semifinals, ultimately being upset by the Table Troop. This name always gets me. I swear to God. Table Troop Trope Turnpike respectfully. They then fought for the third place, with Ray Riders taking home the victory 3-1. The star of our latest in a row story is Bobblehead Gain, who entered bracket with 2-2 Swiss record and a 12th and 16th seed, and exited the silver medal after taking the winning team to a game five. During this run, they upsetted many teams with notable results in Switch, such as Crimson, Reef, Cut the Hook, and UCF Knights Rising previously. Speaking of the winning team, UConn's Siberian Squids managed to take home the gold, overcome the top Swiss performance RET top prod in the surprise knockout Balpat game. This match was the third place held between Knights Rising and RET White Prawns. It went all the way to Game 5, White Prawns ultimately entering the brackets. Um, uh, yeah, on their way to place the title match, UCF took down RET Black Sea Dragons in Group A and the champion uh, Seafoam being able to follow the ball pet game. So, uh, yeah, good performances all around here from Division Three. Um, it's Division Three is always a very interesting bracket to look at, mainly because you do start to try to see those new talents in the collegiate scene, both new teams, new players, and shakeups of some teams improving. So it's always good to keep an eye there.
I have a question for
Um,
you, Krona. Would you eat a
yes.
Grisco taco?
Well, considering the fact that I'm, or at least was a leader of the workers' union, I don't think so.
Fair enough, fair enough. Um, I
But
just
yeah,
had to ask.
some great stuff from Division Three. A great victory for the Table Troop Trope with a 3-1 over Turnpike, and some great results all around. So,
Absolutely. And like you,
want to move us up, Oma?
yeah, totally. So with Division Two, talking about Swiss stage, we had quite a few great performances across this past circuit, especially reflecting on the impacts from Qualifier 2 as well. So PSU Blue Square had a great performance, going 3-1 and getting notable wins over the UCF Knights Rising, Bobblehead Gang, and taking custom WPI Grisco Workers Union to a game 3. Bash was able to put Purdue back on the Division Two map with a solid Swiss run, going 3-1 in matches. They were able to win over USK Gold, Siberian Squids, and GMU Academy, and took UCF Knights Academy to a game 3. Bouncing back from a rough round one loss against Bad to the Barnacle, RIT Orange Kois pulled through and went 3-1 in Group B, taking notable 2-1 wins over That's Dangerous and Gold Barracudas. And WPI Workers Union Nouveau once again went 2-2 in matches, but broke their curse of ninth place. They placed eighth this time and actually made a top cut. Congrats, Krona. And both Custom WPI and Octos and Squids United Scarlet went undefeated in matches until they placed against each other in round four of Swiss. So um, that kind of might reflect on some stuff that ended up happening in bracket, I think, too, which kind of brings in some of those weird coincidences in the play we sort of alluded to in different respects earlier. But to maybe reveal a little bit more about that, let's talk about the bracket stage. So there were quite a few interesting developments. All round one matches ended in a game two with sweeps in all of the matches. There was only a single seeding upset in this round, with PSU Blue Squares failing to HSK Gold. And then the UCF Knights Academy and Custom WPI Grisco Workers Union had a very mirrored bracket run on both sides. Both made quick work of their round one and round two matches, easily sweeping them before passing their semifinal matches to a game three, but ultimately losing them. They placed against each other in the third place, with UCF winning their first game before WPI took the next three. Fourth and third, respectively, these are the highest placements either of these teams have had this circuit season. Good work for both universities here, for sure. And then some standout performances were definitely included with Octos and Squids United Scarlet and Towson Tigerfish. Both teams were undefeated in matches in Swiss and didn't struggle until the aforementioned semifinals matches. After a back and forth first two games, Towson was able to sweep the remaining games in the match and won the qualifier with a 3-1 score in the grand final match. Once again, these are the highest performances both teams have had this circuit season. And interestingly enough, the top two teams in each Swiss group made the top four placements in the bracket. Towson and OSU both finished first in their Swiss group and played in the grand finals match. Sorry, my notes just disappeared for some reason. Okay, here we go. Both were able to finish first in their Swiss group and played in the grand finals match, and WPI and UCF both finished second in their Swiss group, which was able to play into a third place match. A pretty interesting convenience for sure. I'm sure you have something to expand upon there, Krona.
What?
What, just like I feel like Div 2's the little creature that we always have to study for one reason or another.
I love Div 2. I mean, partially it's biased because that's where I've been forever,
Hmm.
so I get to know the players and the teams very well. But just because of just how um, batshit insane it is sometimes. Previously we've always talked about the Div 2 Group B curse of just, the circles of suck and stuff like that. But the um, the circuit format has just shown a lot of these Div 2 teams shifting in and out and having these circular results on stuff. And you definitely have these teams that are definitely hot some weeks and cold other weeks, or teams that just cannot seem to break the ninth place Swiss placement for the life of God. But no, I always liked Div 2. It's always a personal favorite of mine. And it's always fun to watch.
You want to know what I'm wondering? I wonder if the performances of these teams has anything to do with the timing of their midterms.
Hmm, that's probably a really good. I mean, I'm not sure how you would go about that. I guess we need to make a debt map. Yeah, I mean, probably some bit of it.
A
Although,
little bit, at least.
not to say that all Splatoon players are lacking like academically, but I'm sure some of them are, you know,
It's more that
procrastinate
they're
more than others in that front.
it's more that they're lacking maybe a little bit competitively at times. Like no one's able to schedule the scrim for the week because it's like, oh, I got an exam on Monday, and then oh, someone else has an exam on Tuesday and whatnot. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
kind of how
it
it'd
is
be.
something that we've seen previously with like Thanksgiving and spring break and how like teams need to like kind of go on like short hiatuses because of
Yeah,
member stuff. And that definitely has played in a factor in some of those return matches. But yeah, good observation. So,
I figured it was worth mentioning. But we also have one more division to talk about. Can you take us through it?
oh yeah, the ever lovely Division One. So there's a lot to unpack about Division One this qualifier, and let's start with the Swiss. So there's some really good, interesting results. Titansville Turner Orange went 2-2 with notable 2-1 victories over both Splatlanders and Long Beach Gold. I believe this is their highest placing result in Div One because they made top cut, but they definitely it's a very good result for them. They've definitely been on the lower end of Div One, but it's good to see them kind of fighting through some of these more notorious Div One teams and pulling through. UCS Esports Gold had a very interesting round four match against UCF Knights. Most notably, that it actually had to be marked down as a tie, probably due to timing. This definitely caused a huge stir in the bracket seating because this was basically the match that was deciding second place. So UCF second place in the group. So UCF Knights got that with esports having dropped an earlier match. That definitely caused some stuff and some luckiness for Knights in the bracket, which we'll talk a little bit about later. Let's talk about our two biggest winners from the Swiss stage. First being Splatscad Black, with an absolute dominant Swiss stage performance, going 4-0 in matches with notable wins over Long Beach Gold, GMU Patriots, and California Rollers. In the other group, H-Town Rebels also went 4-0 with key 2-1 victories over both Big Fat Sea Cows and Death Roll. Some very unprecedented top of Swiss teams here. Definitely, I don't think anyone could have predicted these teams would go 4-0, but some well fought matches on their end. Um, Moving on to the bracket stage, Old Bay Brigade made a round one upset over the aforementioned UCSD Esports Gold, win that match 2-0 before then losing 1-2 to VCU in round two. A similar story played out for USF Splatoon Gold, with them making a pivotal upset over SplatScad Black in round one, and then winning in game three against PSU Blue in round two. Unfortunately, their luck ran out as they then lost to VCU in game three during their semifinals match. On the other side, on the lower half of the bracket, we had UCF Knights and GMU Patriots sweeping through their round one and round two matches, before playing against each other in the semifinals match, with GMU getting a clean sweep over the previous qualifier winner. Um, Back in the grand final match once again, VCU Big Fat Sea Cows wasted no time and executed a clean 3-0 sweep over GMU and took home first place in this qualifier after getting second last qualifier. Similarly, UCF Knights swept through USF Splatoon Gold in the third place match, taking home bronze here. So a great performance from all the top four placing teams in some absolute pivotal point gains for both VCU and UCF. Ugh. It, Thank you to Florida for having two teams in the top four with literally an S and a C difference. But yeah, great stuff here from Div 1. Glad to see some of the um, newer Division 1 teams kind of pulling some upsets and getting some great results here in Swiss. I like everyone. It's always great to see teams like Red Embers, PSU, UCSD, VCU, do well in brackets and such. But it's always interesting to see kind of the fresh blood of what Division 1 brings. So, yeah. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, don't disagree at all. It's good to see certain teams like either SplatScad or teams that you typically see more in like leagues division to continue to kind of gradually move up a little bit, or at least, kind of claw their way up a little bit more. I think that's really
Mm-hmm.
exciting to see. I think that's something the circuit does a really good job at in general, especially if you're in Division 1 or 2, where you have the opportunity to potentially get results or just get certain matchups that you wouldn't necessarily easily get otherwise, especially in like that competitive environment. So, um, I don't know, it's really provided an interesting opportunity to see like, oh, this is what a big Division 1 would look like, and as the circuit has continued to go on, like that's what it has turned into, really. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
that's a little interesting, like experiment in of itself.
Yeah. I've talked about this in previous episodes, but it's been really well documented that there's always kind of a bit of a gap between like an upper Div 1 team and a lower Div 1 team. So I think the circuit format is really, really good for these like quote unquote lower Div 1 teams where they can get this quality Division 1 practice, but also kind of have this influx of teams that are at that exact skill level, that top of Div 2, to come in and practice again. So I think it kind of benefits a lot of these teams, while they might not be, pushing hard into the bracket phase, they're still getting some quality stuff, and I think it's going to pay back dividends for them in the spring when we see a more traditional league.
No, I agree, and I think just seeing how that ultimately plays out will be the most interesting too. There's going to be
Mm-hmm.
a lot of payoffs for sure, and a lot of people who, leveled up in one way or another, and it's going to just make things even more competitive, really, overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I could talk to the theory about this forever. You know me, but we probably should move on to talking and finishing about our qualifier three stuff with the clips, right, Oma?
Yeah, so we pulled three different clips this week from you all in our amazing little clips sharing channel under the circuit information. And just it, some of these are like more, serious plays where it's like something was truly accomplished that was like really huge for the game. And then other ones are just like short little funny moments. But um, I think it's about time that we maybe just go ahead and walk through these. So I'm going to go ahead, share my screen here, and we'll hopefully be able to get some fun reactions in. So here we go. About to share. All right. So this first clip is from Custom WPI. Here's go over to this is Octo Tonight Scarlet. round one of Top Cut in Division 2. And as you can see in this clip, we have the very one and only Disco from the custom WPI getting an insane quad with the decap, showing just how much pressure you can put out with that weapon. And also, like, I don't know, as a Swatana player myself, I think it's really fun to see, like, Valerian get the sick plays with it. I know that the weapon can be a little cheesy. Maybe some people don't like the rush down of it, but look how sick that was. Like, I keep clicking the replay button because it's just that entertaining.
It's round 4.
Oh,
So the custom, not nouveau.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great clip. I mean, hashtag wish to Wednesday, hashtag WPI2, right? No, I mean, being WPI's competitive manager, it's been great to kind of see some of our new talent like Disco take to the CCA format this season, and it's great to have like both new blood in the water, but also just I definitely think that him and a lot of our other new folks in the rounds, and Cody have just been fantastic for both morale and for kind of like our collective as a whole. So, you know,
Awesome.
take that if you want.
For sure. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and get our second clip rolling too. Um, this is from PSU Fish 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 in
Oh
a
God,
Division 3 Top Cut Round 3 match against UCSD Esports Navy. Um, this is from Arctan here on the Vunder, and they provided a fun description that they wanted to be included with this clip. I'm going to go ahead and
not
just
the
read
big
it out.
swig.
Not the big swig, no.
Mage.
But as they say here, out here in the wilderness of Museum Rainmaker, we can see a wild Vunder in its natural habitat, bravely defending its nest from 3 different predators, each hoping to claim the
Oh my
Vunder as
God.
their next prey. I mean, are they wrong though?
Have you played it yet?
Oh, sorry, I've been playing it this whole time. My mistake. Here we go. A little bit delayed there. Can have a little bit of scuff. But yeah, as you can see, that Wonder fighting off the predators, showing who's the true alpha in the jungle.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that refight is God's good. I think it's ground, but I mean, hey, you're really back in the corner. You're shooting people.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't get splatted after that ball. Kind of just like all that Crusader did was kick the ball very quickly. Nothing else really happened.
I mean, it came to the ground. If you do see them get pretty like there, I mean,
Just chip
well.
out.
I mean, the combo because how else are you going to approach it if you really need to go to the ground?
Sure.
I mean, also, I mean, again, people find it also underestimating Thunder because, you know, it's an undercover helmet. What's he going to do?
So you're saying they underestimate. Let's move on to the next clip. I think that would be a good idea. Alright, so for our final clip of the night, we've got a Division 3 Grand Finals game here. This is, as you would expect, Grand Finals Top Cut. It's Game 1, Table Turf Truth versus Turf Kite. This is from Sneaky and Table Turf. And they note that they were able to get pretty huge play here in order to lock down so yeah, they got that slider out there. They're really gonna triple. That was pretty huge.
What's the combo?
Yeah, they got
in the wellspring. That's just chip hell.
it's literally only chip. Yeah,
Yeah.
running into like I don't know. I call them crayons personally from the weapons. Like running into some crayons, you're like, ah, that sucks. And then slot where you get like one trick slash hit you. That is no
I
fun.
mean, it's just there's a really good restart there. Fifty is basically pushing the note about how the two people there just are not expecting the read. But yeah, I mean, good stuff there. This
Yeah,
turnpike or table turn?
no, this was table turn. Yeah, they raised
Oh,
long turn. Yeah. So,
it there are also I'm gonna just want to quick mention
yeah,
as you can see, it's been fantastic to watch them throughout the last academic year too. Because they started in good sets and they have climbed their way out, and it's been great to see kind of there's a slow progress the message here on the podcast and the top 7 reports we send.
yeah,
You know, great to put college, University of Maryland College Park back on the map after Old Bay kind of was absent for quite some time. So I kind of owe a lot of the not just well the more presence of Maryland College Park in the scene to them rather than Old Bay at this point.
no, agreed. Just, showcasing the growth of these different teams is huge. And
Yeah,
I mean, plays in the storytelling, it plays into just even documenting it because I mean, without like either the production or even the ability to share the clips and whatnot, like there's so many little stories that would just get forgotten. It's like a little historical piece, even though it's just freaking Splatoon 3 gameplay, on the surface, right?
yeah. I mean that's literally half my job here is just to document this and to know the storylines. But
hmm
it's always not wholesome, I guess, to see kind of the team improvement and kind of to see the teams grow and to really make a splash here. But yeah,
For sure.
some good stuff.
And that's going to wrap up our clips for the night here. Um, and without further ado, we're actually going to bring on our interviews today. And we have none other than Towson Tigerfish. We're going to go ahead and bring them both on here and welcome them on. And yeah,
Yeah,
welcome you both.
uh, yeah. Hello,
Hey, what's
Kai and
up?
Flint.
Oh, hello.
Um, Yeah, so to give some quick insight to those who might not recognize Towson Tigerfish, Towson, not Townsend Tigerfish, have been one of the standout teams from the new batch of teams that we saw last academic year, so the 23-24 academic year. It originally placed in Division 5 during Season 4. They went 5-0 in the group before getting eliminated by Champlain Cerulean, who finished second overall in that season. They then moved up to Div 2 in the spring, where they went 0-5, but had some absolutely solid performances against the teams within their group. They're now back in the CCA circuit with notable placements of fourth in Division 2 for Qualifier 1, and then first in Division 2 for Qualifier 3. So here to talk about their team and their recent Division 1 winning run this past qualifier, it's Kai and Plants. So welcome to the podcast.
Yep, nice to be here.
Yeah. So, yeah, so building off that introduction, would you two mind just kind of introducing yourselves and explaining the role you kind of play in the Splatoon community at Towson University?
Yeah.
I,
Hello, my name is Kai. I am the Splatoon head for the Towson Esports Club. Um, I kind of manage and like run all of like the Splatoon handlings. I captain the Tigerfish team as well as handle coaching. So that is me. Thank
I am a player. No, I'm like basically the roller one trick for the team, and I am also somewhat of a co-captain at the moment, scrim manager.
Mm-hmm.
But
Nice.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I do.
Great. So it's also worth noting that, if we're not mistaken, Towson's Splatoon program formed about a year ago. So, how did that come about? Were either of you directly involved in it, and how did that kind of shape up?
Yeah, I wasn't here
so
first semester, so this is all Kai.
Yeah. First semester, I'm a sophomore now, so first semester was actually my freshman year. I was like, oh, I kind of want to play comp in college because I had just come off of like um, being stuck in like the FA void. So I was like, oh, let me
Yeah.
try and find like a team in college. Um, and to my surprise, we didn't have one. So I was like, oh, that's too bad. And then some people I live with on my floor was like, oh, I know the person in charge of the esports club. We can get you in contact and you can make the team. So like a week later, I had all the people I needed for the team thanks to the esports club, just because we had like already a whole roster of people that were just ready. Um, so after that, we like rushed around to sign up for CCA and all that, and that yeah, that's pretty much how I went.
Yeah. I guess to kind of build off that plan, how did you get involved? Were you just one of those first recruits there?
No, I was kind of sitting in there first semester. That was my first semester at the school in general, but I wasn't really ready to take on uh, that much stuff coming in. I was also in Smash Club at the
Hmm.
time, but just happened to see it through the Share Esports server. And second semester, I kind of fell off the Smash Club in general. Wasn't really vibing with the people there that much, so I just decided to take a tryout, and then worked out.
You just jump ship to the other Nintendo game.
Yeah, yeah. Also, it's just hard
That's
because I live off campus. Smash is a lot of commuting. I can just play online this game.
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess one more follow-up question here. Like, were you aware of the CCA and the league format before kind of trying to found a team at Towson Guy, or that just kind of did you learn that more naturally once you started to look into things?
It was in like the back of my mind, but once I started like kind of researching when we actually have the roster, I was like, oh, we have the CCA here, so I was like, oh yeah, we can do that. That sounds fun.
Nice. Yeah. We're always interested to see just kind of how both, teams form, programs form, just how they get introduced to the CCA. So always kind of interesting to pick people's brains about that. But yeah, moving on to, we talked a little bit about your summary, what you've done in the last academic year, but I did kind of want to talk about one thing specifically, and that was your performance in season five of the league. So you were one of the teams that moved up from Division 5 to Division 2 during season 5. While you did go 0-5 in that season, you were the best performing 0-5 team in the history of all the CCA, taking all the teams within your group to at least a game 6, if not a game 7. In fact, your team was a question on our Squid Scholars Showdown for that exact reason. Um, but looking back, kind of what are your thoughts as a whole on kind of what this season meant for your team and program, and what actions have you kind of taken and put forward as a program from this performance?
So I think season 5 was like our like real CCA season because season 4 we were like just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
We were still like in the process of figuring everything out. I was still like trying to get people introduced to the game because we had like a few new people who just this was like their first time playing Splatoon in like a comp setting. So season 5 being like our first real introduction to I guess league format was really interesting. I'm really proud that we were able to like do so well despite it being very challenging. Um, but overall, I think that like managed to like shape us in a way of oh, this is what we're good at, and then this is what we can do to kind of like improve and move forward.
Yeah, no, and I definitely think like looking back in retrospect, like having the results we have so far with your qualifier performances, like it definitely kind of shows that like you're just like finding yourselves as a team then, because like yeah, sure you went 0-5 then, but like you're doing so much better and progressing so much more with these teams that you're kind of neck and neck with previously. So It's good to kind of hear your thoughts because I know that like going 0-5 is definitely a bit of a tough mental pain sometimes, but it's always good to kind of look on the bright side and to take things with stride. So it's good you can
Exactly.
kind of have something to take away from it.
If you're
I
that close,
always
it's like there's a breakthrough away, and then I mean, you just need to find out exactly what it is, and we did at some point, I think.
I
Yeah.
also always just encourage everyone to like kind of take each set one game at a time and just like have fun with it because that's
Mhm.
at the end of the day that's like what we're really here for. So.
Yeah. Quick follow up question that I kind of just remembered. So it might be a little bit loose, but I do remember hearing a little bit about your team playing some external non collegiate events over the summer. Was that kind of in reaction to some of the stuff from season five, or just kind of like your players wanting to get more involved with the scene at large?
I think that was just us wanting to get more involved in the scene. So we didn't really have much opportunity to kind of coordinate events as a team over the summer, but I think people still were able to like get a lot from just playing on their
Coming
Yeah.
back in was more when we did it like starting this season. We've been doing like low ink, FTIU, just getting in as much practice as we can because we're just trying to keep up.
Yeah.
own.
I mean, quick side note: FTIU has just been swarms with collegiate teams in
Oh
recent weeks.
yeah.
It's like fascinating to see like I don't know what like a dozen or so collegiate teams, and most of them placing pretty high on some of the brackets. Um, but yeah, so yeah, thank you for the insight there.
So we've talked a good bit about the CCA season five and just your performance there and kind of reflecting on that a little bit. But I think we should also talk about what's going on right now with the circuit too. So could you talk a little bit about your team's thoughts and expectations for this semester with the circuit? And are you approaching the circuit differently from the league in any way?
I think it's pretty important to note that we actually did have a pretty large roster change coming into the circuit, so we had to
Oh
do a lot
yeah.
of restarting. We did have a decent basis because the like leftover players had gotten a lot better from the last season, and calls were better, and but the two new players that we had have never played the game of comp in their lives, so it was a little bit of a reset, but we weren't exactly sure what to expect at all coming back.
Yeah, like I guess that's pretty fair. You're changing up a lot of your team and like that's going to play into not just maybe the relationships with one another in some aspects, but also just like how your comps actually play out too. So that makes sense. Um, I guess kind of expanding upon just the circuit and whatnot. Um, so you all have been able to play in all of the circuit qualifiers so far. Um, and being placed in Div 2 and then Division 1 and then Division 2 again, um, as a team affected by this new dynamic division system, what do you think about it overall? Do you think it's helpful to see how teams can be put like a bit more actively in different groups that may kind of fit their general skill level, or do you think there's a potential cause of conflict here?
I think the circuit format has been very helpful in just kind of like gauge where we are as like in terms of skill level and trying to like improve that. Because while qualifier two, it was coming
We
back
got
from
like
qualifier two was interesting. Yeah, yeah. Um, but I think it was very helpful being able to see like, oh, that happened. How do we like not have that happen again? Because yeah, just like general improvement. So
taste of the gap.
Do you think it's comparable to like almost a micro season in a sense? Do you think that's maybe a fair comparison? Or
I'm gonna say no
no?
because for me, I see the circuit events more as like playing in SOS
Okay.
and like low ink, where it's like I guess more so SOS. That's more
Hmm.
on the table. But there's like even though you're playing in kind of like the same event and against similar teams, there's like a wildly different um there's like a major change in just how those matches go. So it's just really interesting. I think it's more so interesting than League Ball, in my opinion.
Hmm. Do you think that's
I'd like
Sorry, go ahead, Plant.
I would like to say that the dynamic format actually gives it gives more incentive to improve because it's less like we're sitting at the top with a bunch of like teams that are should maybe be lower Div 1. They're somewhere in between. We're not just sitting up there like wiping this I mean we're not just sitting there forever. But it is kind of scary to do well and then immediately think like, "Oh, we just won. We're going to be put at the bottom again." Like
Hmm.
of this higher div, we're about to deal with an entirely different level of competition. But I mean, we're stagnating less, and we're like trying to improve more, just because we know that there is like somewhere higher that we can go, and that we have to go.
Hmm. Yeah, it gives more like smaller incentives to keep your performance up rather than like a longer one just to stay at the top. Um, but yeah, kind of comment on some of this. Do you think kind of some of these changes that you're talking about kind of tie back to the fact that these are like for the most part best of three matches rather than best of seven, where teams have less time to kind of adapt and change and more have to be consistently playing at a certain skill level to continue to progress?
Yeah, there's certainly like a lot of quick thinking you got to be doing because, like you said, there's only three matches you have to like figure out what's going on and like what you need to do. Um, so I think that definitely fosters like faster improvement per game. I feel like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it also just kind of introduces each teams to like varying different comps. So we like we'll keep seeing like rushdown comps, stalls, like, and personally for us, we have a hard time dealing with those rushdown comps. So going from like different like we're getting data we're getting like a nice little pool of data that we can kind of take from and be like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing and this is what like this is what they're doing to kind of shut down our comp. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything to comment there, Plant?
We have to be way more ready going into each set. Best of three is absolutely terrifying because if we like mess up, there's no late set comeback. We're just gone. So we
Yeah.
have to be ready in advance. Otherwise, it's
Nah.
just done, run over.
Yeah. I feel your pain there.
No, absolutely. Um, it, just like seeing how like some of those matchups in circuit kind of play out differently. I think I like your comment or a little bit earlier on SO on it being more similar to SOS. Because I as someone who's been kind of more in the trenches with that personally recently, like you have a lot of variety there, and it's like a really great opportunity to also just practice your skills too, at the very least. Obviously, in a qualifier, you're hopefully, just performing better too for the sake of like points and maybe a placement or whatnot. But um, I definitely think it is comparable to SOS in a lot of ways, and just what they're trying to achieve over there as well.
But yeah, I guess kind of skipping over, we covered some of the stuff we wanted to hit regarding kind of your previous experience with the Div 1 there. So kind of skipping ahead, heading into this qualifier after kind of that shaky performance in Div 1, the previous qualifier, did you have any expectations per se about kind of how things would go, or you're just trying to kind of regather things after that last qualifier?
um
Uh, Well,
I
all
think
the teams that we top forward with I mean, in qualifier one, we were part of the top four teams there for Div 2 that just um did really well in Swiss and then all managed to make it to the very end of the group I mean, of the bracket stage, but we all ended up going to Div 1 and I think they're all still there. I think we're the only ones that headed back. So, uh I mean, it was probably less competition, but we had also improved since then. I feel like our so notably, again, we have two like new players to comp, but they have been rapidly improving with their coordination and comms. It's still not quite there yet, but it is getting a lot better. So we had been playing like stuff like FTIU and Gold Bracket. I think our first time ever playing that. So I feel like we were pretty confident going into this one that we would do really well.
Hmm. Yeah. Anything else to add there, Kai?
no, yeah. I mean, we've like I always kind of feel like I prepare. We want to prepare for like whatever outcome, but we were definitely feeling a bit more confident going into
Hmm.
qualifier three.
Yeah. I mean, that makes complete sense on what you're saying. Just having that the more experience both with your team specifically, and the teams in general. And I guess you probably like not to put words in your mouth, but I guess that you kind of were thinking back to your Q1 experience and thinking just like, okay, this was 4 weeks ago. How do we stack up now? A little bit. Um, but yeah, no, it's good to know your kind of mindset going in there. And yeah, what a qualifier you had, right, Oma?
Yeah, agreed. And let's also talk about your Division 2 run too. Um, you were able to go 4 to 0 in Swiss, winning over notable teams, cut the hook, Siberian Squids, USK, and UCF Knights Academy, and only dropping a single game to UCF in your Swiss run from qualifier number 3. And in bracket, you were able to sweep UMN Esports and RIT Orange Quays before facing Custom WPI Grisco Workers Union and semis. You only dropped a combined 2 games between that match and the grand final match against OSU Scarlet. Um, and could you talk a little bit about your Swiss run? Um, since especially you only dropped a single game to UCF in round 4 of Swiss. Uh, these obviously these scores don't necessarily tell the full story.
Yeah. So Swiss, we kind of like were. It was early in. We were kind of like kind of nervous. We like, oh, we got to do this, and this, da da da. But I think after like the first set, we kind of
The first
got into a nice little groove of things. Are you saying that?
Technically the second set because we didn't
Second
play
set?
our first set. They didn't show
Oh,
up. Their fourth wasn't
right.
there. we played we played 2v2s in the meantime.
Yeah.
A little bit of a DQ
But
moment.
yeah, I wouldn't have
Adding.
been worried about it anyways, but yeah, that's unfortunate for them.
Yeah. Round
But we
four.
kind of
So,
yeah, we kind of swept through it up until up until the final set. I mean it was pretty decisive, but the final set it was kind of scary because we like had a really nice lockout game one, and then second game, uh, we got like we lost in 1 minute on Rainmaker Humpback. It was so fast,
sobbing.
and all the confidence was just gone, and we had to lock in.
Yeah. I mean, you were able to clutch it though. Like, do you think kind of your um, previous matches in the Swiss kind of aided to that more natural feeling of just kind of getting the groove back, even though you just lost game two pretty instantaneously there?
I think the best medicine for not losing mentally there was just saying, okay, we suck on Rainmaker Humpback. Let's just not. We're better than this team. Let's just win.
Uh, honestly, fair. Rainmaker Humpback is a very, very subjective map mode, but Yeah, no, it's great to hear that Swiss was kind of smooth sailing there. Other than UCF, which I mean that makes sense. They spoiler alert, they made the third place match, so it makes sense you'd struggle a little bit there. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
good to hear that. Jumping a bit ahead to the brackets, things seem to be kind of a repeat for rounds one and two, with you basically just sweeping those games. You didn't really have any trouble until you ran into custom WPI Grisco Workers Union in your semifinal match. Eagle-eyed Division Two listeners will remember that you had previously been here before in qualifier one, where you lost 1-2 to Egg Spaghetti, who actually ended up winning the entire division for that qualifier. So, with that in mind, how do you kind of approach this match, especially as WPI tied it to 1-1 after winning game two? Do you feel any pressure to push past the semifinal match, given what happened last time in qualifier number one?
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
Um, I feel like
Semi?
that semifinal match was kind of like, oh, this is where we got knocked out last time. So going like being there again was just like, all right, here we go. Let's lock in. But I will say that match against WPI was a match because there, while it was, um, we had like a lot of more lockout situations. We've been kind of getting used to that. It was still really tough. Um, their like their comp just kind of worked really well to counter against us with all the chip damage and all of that. So they're,
Rush.
but
They
like,
are
yeah,
heavy rush.
mhm.
Mario is their dually. I've talked to him before. He's kind of scary. Yeah.
Oh,
Their
he's gonna
deep
be
dive is
very
really
happy
good
you
too.
said that.
Yeah.
I don't know if the
Me
decals
too.
remembers, but I had a silly little moment on Mahi zones where we were just messing around on the sponge. Like he was trying to get up on the sponge, and I just kept shooting the sponge, and then I ran out of ink. So they got top left, unfortunately, but like it was funny.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, kind of the story I'm kind of getting here is that pretty smooth sailing, but any of those top four teams kind of gave you a little bit of trouble and gave you a little bit of a run for your money there.
Yeah. Second game we got locked out hard. It was in spawn on Umami. We were ramp locked,
Yeah.
but
Uh,
it was still fine. We
well, hey,
bounced back.
pulled through. You were able to get that game three. You punched your ticket right back. Well, not back. Sorry, right to the grand finals match for Division Two there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's talk about that grand final match too against OSU Scarlet. So, what was the key to that match overall for you guys? How were you able to learn to counter OSU's game plan and punish them, by chance, if you did?
They I think they are really, really heavy AoE, and that's kind of what whooped us on the semis of the qualifier one. Egg Spaghetti is very heavy AoE. It's the same kind of deal. Um, and it's just getting past that, and I think we just learned to play it better. We have like really good like rush weapons. We have noob on dualies. Just completely run them down. You got any thoughts on that one?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the running theme was get in their face, and if we can get set up and lock them out, that's the game. So
I mean,
Oh
literally.
the
yeah.
only issue we'd have is when we weren't allowed to get in their face. So
Yeah, yeah. Ramen against that kind of comp is just not fun. That's where we lost.
yeah,
But
Yeah,
last
AoE is
game was,
gross on ramen. I can relate
yeah,
to
it's
that.
so
Yeah.
nasty.
Nope.
But no, it was relatively fast.
No, that's good. Like being able to kind of reflect on what you struggled on in previous qualifiers and just tournaments in general, and working to improve on that. And obviously, it paid off. You didn't fight Egg Spaghetti necessarily, but you did fight a similarly like very well skilled team. I mean, OSU Scarlet. uh, has had kind of a similar run, I think, overall to Egg Spaghetti in some regards. So, um, yeah, like just being able to still kind of have that comeback is still really exciting to see. And we also wanted to highlight that you were up 2-0 before dropping game three to OSU, like you just mentioned. Were you worried about a potential reverse sweep after that, going into a very pivotal game four, or were you just taking it one game at a time?
Only a little bit.
Only a
I
little
say
bit.
that because I try my best to take it one game at a time. So as soon as I caught myself being like, "Oh, what if they like reverse sweep? Like that would be so sad." I'm like, wait a minute. We haven't gotten there yet. Let's just play this next game and we'll take it from
Wait, we're goaded.
It's a little chart
Uh,
that's going up and down constantly.
there. It's so
It's a
over. We're
Yeah.
mood.
so back.
Yeah, literally. Um,
well,
yeah.
luckily, it didn't happen because y'all clutched up and took that final game, winning that set 3-1, and winning the entire Division 2 for qualifier number 3. So, first of all, congrats. Second of all, unfortunately for you, there's really only one place to go with that, and that's back up
Oh,
to
dear.
Division 1. And hey, you're signed up to play this Saturday. So, with that in mind, and the likelihood that you'll be placed back in Div 1, what are you going to do differently this time as compared to your previous venture in qualifier number 2?
Oh, good heavens.
I mean, you should have expected this to be coming, right?
I mean, yeah. We've
Yeah.
been doing scrims higher now. We did actually do a Div 1 scrim recently, and have been trying to scrim higher looty divs too, and it's not going terribly. Actually, it's going decent. It's just having that work out under tournament nerves and also not knowing really what teams we're going to be dealing with. We're not ready to. I'm not sure we're ready to fight all of them at that level, but that kind of thinking is like, I mean, if you think that it's self-fulfilling prophecy, just win.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I will say,
Any, mm-hmm.
if we ever come into contact with Drexel Dragons, Reese, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for my bestie.
Oh my god, you put out a hit.
I have a we have a running thing where if we see each other in bracket, we are fighting to the death.
It's always good to have some levity between some of the teams here.
There's blood in the water, Krona.
Um, oh my god, I literally predicted it an hour and a half ago.
Literally.
Um, but, but yeah, I mean, I'm definitely. I mean, obviously, everyone will be interested to see how you fare again. But I think I'm optimistic, both of what you said here, just because I think you're a very different team than was there 4 weeks ago, and I think with how Division 1 shaped up last time, like anything can really happen. So I wish you all the best of luck on Saturday, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with how things go for y'all. Hopefully.
Oh yeah,
Um,
hopefully.
Yeah, thank
but
you.
yeah, um, I guess kind of one final thing is that now we're starting to get to kind of, as you mentioned at the beginning of this episode, like the circuit's already halfway over and teams are starting to look to kind of what the future holds. Um, Skipping over the final stuff, I'm actually interested in hearing your perspectives for spring. Just kind of like how you're going to approach that differently. If there's any like um, things your team wants to do in the meantime to get ready for a more traditional CCA league in the spring.
Yeah. So I think the challenge with CSA Spring is going to be once again roster changes. I can't remember if it's they graduate in spring or if they graduate. No, they graduate spring. They're not coming back next year. But we're gonna have to like deal with roster changes yet again if we can get like another set of players because we have two players that are graduating, so that's gonna be its own thing. But
Graduating in
I
winter, as in not eligible for spring.
I think they. I have to check again. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
I keep forgetting. That's kind of bad of me. But
Yeah. Needless to say, by summer, there's definitely going to be some major changes to the team you're running, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
At the
I
very
guess
least, we're prepared
like
for it.
yeah, we kind of skipped a little bit over this earlier. I am kind of interested. Like, how has your club or program kind of grown over the last year? Like, have you like, are you still technically just a group of people playing Splatoon for Towson? Are you a club? Are you like an esports official esports branch there?
So how the Towson Esports works is we are a club. Towson Esports is a club, and then
Hmm.
there's different um, game heads that each run and manage their own kind of section. We all come together to like do tabling events for like the incoming students and fall and spring. So, but other than that, we're kind of just like a section under the club.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. All
unfortunately,
right.
we do not have a full esports program. We are working towards that.
Yeah. I was just kind of curious because like a lot of collegiate programs and teams find themselves in a situation like yours where it's like technically they're part of something, but they still kind of do the marketing and the growth themselves. So I just curious as to see what the future will bring with you on that front and kind of what you're working with. But yeah. Oma, do you have any other questions for them before I stop myself from rambling on for another 30 minutes?
No, you're all good, Krona. I don't really have any more questions myself, but it's always, I do want to just note that it's always interesting to hear kind of how all these different, university groups handle their own operations differently. I guess coming from Purdue, where we have like a very, very traditional club format that only is now starting to gradually shift a little bit since there's a more formal esports program there. It's just kind of interesting to hear like what everyone else is doing or what their experiences have been because uh, I mean, in my understanding, I think kind of that general esports, like, I guess want to call it guild for some reason. It's not really that at all. Um, but just that, like, like you have your Valorant team, you have your Splatoon team, your Smash group or something. I think that's typically what it looks like, and it sounds like that's generally what's going on at Towson. Um,
Yeah, pretty
so
much.
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of always interesting to hear what goes on there. I mean, a few weeks ago we had Crab and Go on, and they noted how they originally had that, and I believe they backed out of it to have just their own club, and they went from like 10 or so people to over 80 or something insane like that. And that's
Like,
also them
Mm-hmm.
uh,
being
Whoa.
Houston. That's also them being Houston. Houston is like the
Houston being huge.
third biggest university in the US or something insane like that.
Wow.
Yeah. Penn
Um,
State did PSU did a similar thing recently too,
mhm.
where they dropped their esports title with their club and made their own Splatoon club. So yeah, it
I,
actually it's a common interesting things.
that might be something I look into because what one thing I did notice a lot about when I was tabling at the club fair this fall
Yeah.
was that a lot of people were interested in Splatoon, but they were all like, "Oh, maybe I don't know if I want to do it like competitively and all that. I don't know if I want to compete in tournaments and all that." But as much as I think that yes, competitive has like a, a connotation of it for being like stressful and all that,
Mhm.
it's honestly really fun. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
it being under a club setting instead of just like esports might be more attractive to
Mm-hmm.
I guess it
more people, I
just
guess.
multiplies
But
their player count by 8. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that'd be
I
cool.
mean, yeah, I think that's well. It's speaking a little bit from personal experience because that's kind of what WPI has. Like we have an unofficial quote unquote club and then an esports branch. But I think personally, having avenues for people to get involved on both fronts and kind of judging how much they want to get involved with it as a whole is good. But obviously, you still kind of just need to feel out both what's best for your community and what's even eligible for your school. But
And
you
what
know,
you can manage as well too, right?
yeah,
Because like
delegation comes huge at this front.
what the immediate group can handle is going to determine what ultimately happens at the end of the day, right?
that is the one thing that's like really beneficial about being under the esports club is that
Hmm.
there's less that I personally have to manage. Like I don't have to worry about any official club stuff. I just run Splatoon.
And it can be a lot, like
Yeah.
coming from experience. You have to like, if you're doing club meetings in person, you have to know where those go. Um, if you're doing any other events, it's like a whole process. Obviously varies by university, but generally speaking, I'd assume it's roughly in line with each other.
Yeah. To pass it both to you and to people who might be listening and have been in a similar situationship. Why did I say situationship? That's
Situationship?
okay.
That is
Corona!
I
crazy.
Oops.
That is insane.
Jesus
That is
Christ.
crazy.
I've I've not
All
eaten
right,
in like
dude.
12 hours pre-break. But what I was gonna say is the CCA does have some resources that might be helpful, both in the both Sox presentations help a little bit, and then the collegiate identity presentation that me and Mizuno did might help on some of that fronts. But obviously, like I said, do whatever's best for your club and best for your people in mind. But yeah, so yeah. Any final comments, Oma?
No, not for me. It was a pleasure to be able to talk to both of you from Towson, Kai, and Plan, and just learning more about your journeys too. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of like this segment of the podcast, just learning more about other people and giving them a chance to, just put out their thoughts and whatnot.
No, yeah, it was really cool to be on. We were not terrified at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was great to hear from both of you. I've been following y'all for a long time, and I really it was excited to kind of have this chance to talk and to discuss things. And I like what I'm hearing. I really wish you the best of luck with everything that comes in the future. But yeah, wrapping up, is there anything you'd like to plug, whether it be Twitch, Twitter, Blue Sky, anything for the people to follow you or your esports program?
Um, you can follow me at TigerQueen_Kyle on Twitter, I guess. Um, we also have a esports Instagram, but the handle's eluding me. But I would just say if you want to follow us on Instagram, um, you can type in Towson University Esports and it'll pop up.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Plant? Anything?
Oh no, I kind of just. I mean, if you want to, if someone wants to send a friend request on Discord, they can. But otherwise, I don't really do much.
Fair enough. Can't fault you there. But yeah, it was great to have you two on. Thank you so much for the interview. So
It
Yep.
was lovely talking.
yeah, see ya.
Absolutely. All right.
Bye.
And that was Towson Tigerfish. And I mean, as we previously already said, pleasure to talk to them and happy to just, cover more teams here at the CCA. There's been a lot of interesting dynamics at play, a lot of really fun interviews to be had as well. But I think it's about time we
Yeah,
wrap up the episode, Corona.
I was just thinking you've not had me on interview duty in a while, and I got back into the groove of asking what questions I like to ask.
No, yeah, it's all good. It brings like you think of things on the fly, and it's like, oh, I didn't like we didn't script that out necessarily earlier, but like
No,
why not
it's
ask?
always fast. It's always fascinating to talk to just different people in the collegiate scene. That's honestly probably my favorite bit that we've done with the podcast is just give voices and to talk to more and more people and engage with the community. But I very much digress at this point.
No, for sure. No, like that absolutely the best part of the podcast so far has been those conversations, and um, it's something that we're always looking to try to expand upon or figure out other ways to maybe pull it off too, and hope it just continues to evolve at least in some way in the future. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but without further ado, let's talk about some quick upcoming events that you can all look forward to. I think most notably is CCA Circuit Qualifier number 4, which is slated to be this weekend. I believe that's going to be Saturday, right, Krona?
Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah, it's going to be Saturday, and signups actually close tonight at 11:59 p.m.
In 2 hours and 20 something odd minutes
Yeah,
at time
so
of recording.
Um, Definitely sign up if you haven't yet. If you're interested in signing up or just getting another qualifier under your belt, it'll be a really great time. And there's only two
Yeah.
left.
Yes, I was just about to say we only have 91 teams participating in this one currently, which is just slightly more than Q3.
Hmm.
So you're probably going to see we'll probably hit over 100 in Q5, which is my bet. So if you're looking to get points, this might be it's gonna be really beneficial playing Q4 here. But
Yeah,
obviously, do what you want.
Q3 and Q4 probably the overall best opportunities for snagging points, unless if you had like crazy upsets in the earlier Qs. So definitely take a peek at it and do a little thinking about it at the very least. But um, we
Yeah, I mean,
also
whatever works best for your team and such.
absolutely, but we also wanted to note that uh, currently the next episode of the podcast is slated to be in a week from now, next Thursday night, and we will be doing a recap of qualifier number 4 during that podcast, and most likely another interview as well with a notable team from the upcoming qualifier. So look forward to that,
Hmm.
and we will be looking forward to more shenanigans later. But
Yeah.
um,
Uh, two quick things, if you wouldn't mind, Oma.
yeah, go for it.
Um, I do want to say that we'll probably start talking about some wildcard discussion within the next few podcast episodes. I know that we really haven't talked about that much, honestly,
No, not
so
really.
far. But like now that we're kind of getting down to the wire, it's definitely gonna be interesting to kind of look more critically at the leaderboard and to kind of see, both where things lie. Um, and then also, we will not be doing a podcast on what's
Thanksgiving.
the exact date? Yeah, yeah. Is it actually that Thursday exact?
Yeah, no, November 28th will not be doing a podcast episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
No.
that'd be kind
Please
of
forgive us for
stupid.
wanting to go eat turkey with our families.
We did joke a little bit about like I think I was bringing it up with a few people on staff, and I'm like, I don't want to do a podcast episode on Thanksgiving. They're like, oh, you don't want to do a little silly family FaceTime that's streamed on the CCA call the CCA Twitch, like live at the Thanksgiving dinner table, and I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about Splatoon again.
Just getting your like grandparent to explain what the hell's happening with Grab and Go.
Literally, no.
And,
Like they're like, what do you mean, big fat sea cow? What do you mean by that? Towson Tigerfish. Huh?
that would be entertaining. But yeah. So expect that change. We'll kind of see if what happens kind of as things get closer to the deadline decision for the wildcard teams and the circuit finals. But definitely expect some more stuff from the podcast in the next month as the circuit season starts to come to a close. But yeah,
Yeah. Without further ado, I think it's about time we formally close out in that case. Krona, where can everyone find you?
you can find me at comrade underscore Corona at Twitter and hopefully at that same handle on Blue Sky when I finally get around to actually making my account. Where can the good folks at home find you, Oma?
Yeah, you guys can find me under OmaZen on Blue Sky, OmaZen underscore monkey on Twitter, and also here at the CCA doing silly shenanigans and stuff like that. But yeah, that's just about it. It was great to have our conversation with Towson. It was great to recap both qualifier number 3 and some anticipation we have for qualifier number 4. And we can't wait to see what happens in the future.
Yeah. See
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, see you everyone. Goodbye.